Jack of all trades. Hey, I'm your host, Lamar L.A. Smith, and welcome to another episode of the Jack of All Trades podcast. Today I'm with my host, with my with my friend Brandon Jones, who's a senior at Arizona State University. He's also the host of our podcast, Let's Talk About Sports. Uh, he's also inspired two future book characters. Two future books. He's inspired a character in two future books. So, Brandon, it was up.
How's it going, guys? It's a pleasure to be on this podcast with my LTAS co-host, and I look forward to today.
Cool. What you guys don't know about Brandon is a character, like emphasis on character. He is a fiend for TikTok, and I'm telling you, I rarely ever get on TikTok, but I think I know everything that's going on or trending on TikTok vicariously through Brandon, whether it's his Snapchat story, uh, TikToks that he sends to our group. And I'm telling you, if you want a funny TikTok, he's your guy. Like, I'm telling you, it's elite content. Elite content.
I've been on TikTok so much that my For You page is strictly out-of-pocket comedy. I'll say that.
I think I think that's very safe to say. But let's get into today's topic, which is personal growth. So to me, growth in college is inevitable between, living in dorms, between, just normal stuff like paying bills, like the whole nine, like you're on your own for the first real time. So for me, I want to know first, what were you like your freshman year? Obviously, I've known you for a minute, but I wasn't there your freshman year of college at least.
Yeah, so obviously you went to ASU for grad school, and I'm finishing up undergrad here. So it's two completely different perspectives. I started off as a freshman in the dorms at Taylor Place on downtown Phoenix campus. We got our apartment my sophomore year at Roosevelt Point. I think each year has just been uh, some type of transition into whether it's living arrangements or it's um, my classes getting more difficult. It's just been a transition each and every year. The freshman year, I was 17, first time living on my own. I didn't know what to do. And fortunately, my first two semesters academically weren't too difficult and went pretty smoothly. Finished freshman year with about a 3.4 GPA. And I also got to have more than enough fun, which unfortunately our class of 2019 and 2020 kids have not been able to get out of their freshman year. So it's fortunate that I got to have fun while also staying up on my grades. And I would say freshman year was much of a success given how young I was. And then flash forward to sophomore year, all of a sudden I'm in an apartment. It took me probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 months to figure out how to really grocery shop. The cooking part wasn't so difficult for me. It was, learning how to properly grocery shop and not buying things that I'm not going to finish before they expire.
I can attest to
We're not
that.
going to get it. We're not going to get into the moldy bun story, but it took me a while to learn how to grocery shop properly and not blow through my money. So that was definitely a big adjustment, but that's helped me a lot going forward. And then academically, I kind of hit a rock first semester of sophomore year. Had a lot of classes where you know finals started being worth 35% of my grade instead of 20, and I've never been a guy that's been good with long exams. So a lot of my grades just completely slipped at the end of the semester. And I'd say probably going into finals week, I was on pace to have probably a 3.1, 3.2 for the semester. Ended up with a 2.4. So
Dang.
that was a hard pill to swallow. Tanked my GPA all the way down to a 2.95, and I had a pretty good and bounce back second semester. Classes were actually more difficult than they were first semester, but a lot of them were journalism classes, so I didn't have to worry about finals taking my
Finals.
grade. Sports videography, that class was hell, but it's what I'm going to do. So I was able to get a B+ out of it after extra credit. And sports reporting, that was another hard class. I mean, Jane Lee is arguably the best sports reporting teacher out there. Former writer for MLB.com for the Oakland A's for about 10 years. Um, 30K
Ah,
followers, verified on Twitter.
that makes
Great
sense why she
teacher.
knows, my teacher that I had for sports reporting, Bill, because, he
Yeah,
worked.
Bill Hill. Yeah, they were actually. I think Bill was one of the people who lobbied for her to teach at ASU
Huh.
when she came out here. Her husband moved out here, and then she was like, "Hey, why not teach at one of the best journalism schools in the country?" So I
Sounds
actually
about
got it
fair.
when it was her first semester of teaching. She had not stepped down from the Oakland A's yet, so
Hmm.
and this was a spring semester class, so she was running back and forth trying to teach two sports reporting classes while also covering spring training for the Oakland A's for most of the semester. Then she just said, enough is enough, and stepped down. She was actually giving us some insight on Kyler Murray's decision to play in the NFL instead of the MLB. Obviously, she was pretty close with Kyler Murray because he was supposed to play for the Oakland
Yeah.
A's, and so that was really cool hearing from her. Before he even sent the tweet out, he texted. He was like, "Hey, just wanted you to know I chose football. I'm going to go into the NFL draft. I already informed the Oakland A's, and that was that." So I actually knew before the announcement came out. She told us
Hmm.
in class.
Interesting. That's a cool experience in itself right there.
Yeah, and it's like, I've been putting out a lot of articles obviously this past semester, and just seeing her and some of the other Cronkite professors who have a big following retweet my work and get a lot of my views up was really cool. The very first article I wrote, she retweeted it 2 or 3 times, and I wake up the next morning and it's the highest trending article on the Cronkite News front page.
That's what's up. That's what's up. You talked about, not all of it, but a lot of things that you had to learn and grow from, from grocery shopping to, just figuring out basic, life skills that everyone has to figure out at some point in life, regardless of when they
Exactly.
figure them out. So between when started in your freshman year to now, how do you think you've grown? Like, not how do you think you've grown, but in what way have you grown the most, I would say.
Um, well, I'll just start career wise. I'd say, yeah, that's that spring semester where I had Jane Lee, my sports reporting teacher, and Tom Fergus, a great sports videographer. Videography is not necessarily my best skill, but I actually did a lot of it for my internship with Phoenix Rising this semester and used a lot of the tips that Tom Fergus gave us when he taught us. So, having those two great Cronkite professors really catapulted me into the sports journalism industry. That following summer, I interned with Golf Channel. Met a lot of cool people from different parts of the country. Um, they're all doing great things now, and that was just the start of my growth as a sports journalist. Junior year, I had to knock out of a lot of general ed classes, and kind of slowed down a little bit. And then when the coronavirus hit, that's when we started our podcast. The views have been going up and up and up, so I love to see the upward trend. And that's when my Tokyo Olympics internship got canceled. I tried reaching out to a lot of my contacts that I had met at the 2019 NABJ conference in Miami. Um, my internship with NBC Sports LA had gotten canceled. So I was like, you know what? I need my JMC 44 internship credit for graduation. But let me see what I can do with my connects in Arizona. So I shot an email to Doug Tamaro, assistant athletic director with Sentinel Athletics. Was like, hey, do you guys have any roles that you're doing, unpaid or paid? I just need an internship at this point. And he was like, yeah, we can figure something out for you. And then I also shot an email to my former sports multimedia professor, Jose Bosch, who is the digital content um, coordinator, I think is his official position for Phoenix Rising FC. And, I was expecting probably one or the other was going to extend the offer. And about 2 weeks before the semester started, they both sent me emails within about a 2-day span and were like, we'd love to have you on board. Unfortunately, we can't pay you, but we'd love to have you on board. And I was like, well, I guess I'm doing 2 internships on top of Cronkite News this semester. And I
As
must say, I
oof,
barely got any sleep. I didn't really have much free time to hang out with anybody, but I got a lot of valuable experience.
I don't know how you did it. I mean, I did one internship when I was, at UK, obviously for credit, like everyone has to do at a lot of journalism schools, but two at the same times. If I did two at the same time, would have been no party thrown for me. I know that much.
Not to mention not getting paid too. So I had to work
Yeah.
on the weekends to actually have money.
What was
If
I
they
about
were
to say?
paid, it really wouldn't have been that big of a deal.
True, true, true. What was I about to say real quick? Did y'all have like an hour limit, like a certain amount of hours y'all had to do, or was it just like days
Yeah.
you had to go?
So for the Son of Athletics internship, it was a 3 credit um, class that I had to pick up, and they require us to do 215 hours for the semester, which averages about a little under 15 hours a week.
Wow, that's crazy. I think
Which
for
I'm actually a few hours short of, but since the semester's over, my boss did me a solid and signed off on it because he knows I'm gonna be doing stuff over break, so
I'm
he let it
trying to
slide.
I'm trying to think. I think at UK, I think I only had to do 100.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah, I think I
and
only.
then for and then for the 1 credit internship with Phoenix Rising, I had to do 120 hours for the semester, which was about 8 a week.
Okay. Dang, that's a 215. That's
So
wow.
yeah, that's
Golly, golly.
yeah, it's a lot.
Uh
And then
oh,
uh
go ahead.
pretty,
Say what you about to say.
and then with this semester, at the end of the semester, I finished with Cronkite News, and one of my colleagues from Cronkite News reached out to me and was like, "You're on the high school sports beat, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And then she was like, "Would you be interested in writing for SB Live? It's a uh, high school sports publication that just launched, and they only have one right now." And I was like, "Well, I mean, you couldn't have asked a better person." So she connected me with the guy in charge of all that. He was like, "Yeah, absolutely, love to have you on board." I'm not gonna tell you my salary from them, but they pay me pretty good, and I just started that last week, and we'll probably be out at 2 or 3 state championship games this weekend. So
This was up. This was up. All
that's
right.
that's that's how the school year's been going for me.
Cool, cool. All right. I don't know what your other choices were for college. I don't honestly I don't remember. But for me at least, I know with schools, there comes a point where, as cliche as it sounds, if you go to one school over another, your life would be completely different. Like it's a bigger decision than you realize. Like, for example, I was considering Tennessee and Clemson. If I went to Tennessee or Clemson, my book, all that other stuff that happened, I don't know if it would have get got created or if I would have the same, college experience if I, went to a different school. So how much do you think that being at ASU is specifically, amplify your growth, whether it be career wise, whether it be on a personal level?
Well, I'll break down my final options. So, at first I was thinking Temple was really the school that I wanted to go to, and then didn't get in, didn't get into my mom's alma mater, Howard. So it came down to ASU, University of Arizona, San Diego State, Washington State, and what was the last school?
I remember you talking about SDSU. I think that's the only school I
Yeah,
remember you telling me about.
yeah. It basically came down to those four, and Washington State was a long shot. I only applied because it was an in-state school for me. I went to the campus and was like, hell no. I'll do 2 years at community college and transfer to a out-of-state school before I do this. Pullman,
I,
Washington was
I
just
don't
not for
blame
me.
you. I don't blame you. Do not blame you one bit.
So it really came down to San Diego State, who ironically is playing ASU in basketball tonight, and I'm writing the game story for that for the Sun Devils website. And it also came down to University of Arizona. Visited all three. I actually, my parents had a timeshare that alternated between Scottsdale in Arizona
Mhm.
and Aviara, which is like just north of San Diego.
Mhm.
So I was pretty familiar with both areas. And my grandparents have a second home in Tucson, so I was familiar with Tucson as well. So obviously that played a part in my decision as well. And you know, at San Diego State, their journalism program was pretty non-existent. If I was going to end up going there, I probably would have done something in business, whether it's accounting, finance, and I just decided that's not really what I wanted to do. It was going to be a little bit cheaper, but you know, I was also thinking about post graduation. It's like, all right, if I land a job in San Diego right out of college, I'm gonna be living in the slums
Yeah,
working in San Diego. It's so expensive out there.
yeah, it
So I mean,
is.
that was definitely something that I really thought about. And with University of Arizona, I talked to their journalism dean. I talked to a lot of people in their journalism program, and I knew that if I went to Arizona, that I wouldn't be doing journalism. When the dean of the school said, "Hey, we're not Cronkite, but," and I'd barely even listened to what she said after that. I'm like, the fact that their journalism program is so shaky that they have to lead off with "we're not Cronkite," that speaks volumes. And you could just tell on accepted students day that their dean, by the way, is black. So of course she approached me out of all the students at the accepted students day, and you could just tell that they're just desperate for people of color, to be honest. And Arizona, it was the university was just not my vibe. I was thinking about possibly doing sports business there. Um, they have a really good sports business program, and I probably would have turned into more of a sports agent, uh, team front office guy kind of person. But I'm glad I made the decision that I made. I think if I had gone to Arizona, I probably would have spent most of my time at my grandparents' house because I don't think I really would have fit in that there down in Tucson. So
Tucson is honestly, like, I went to a college like town, so I understand. We went to Tucson together once. There's nothing in Tucson. Like that would have been you would have to been a super like how do I describe it? Like a super fan, type of far as like athletics or something like that in order to join that environment or just be really into the party scene, etc. Where like if you go to Arizona State, I mean, obviously I feel like you made the right decision for yourself in general. I mean, your path thus far is a proof of that. You have all of that right there. So like you can still go out to parties or whatever situation may be on that, or enjoy like nightlife in general. You got Scottsdale, you got Phoenix, you got Tempe, different things that you can do. Uh, all the professional sports teams are already in Phoenix, like down the street from Cronkite. So if you want to go to a game in person, you can go there instead of having to drive 2 hours away if you lived in Tucson. Then you had a
If the Cardinal
situation.
Stadium is an hour from where I am right now, and that's 3 hours from Tucson. So
And then
that's
like
another
the
example.
major as well. So Cronkite easily was the best program out of the three of those schools, like you said. San Diego State is practically non-existent, and then you have a situation where you have at the other school, what is it called? Tucson, U of A. U of A. I don't know much about their journalism program, but I think it's safe to say that they aren't on the same caliber or notoriety as Cronkite. I mean, I had someone in my grad cohort that came from U of A to Cronkite for grad school because like they didn't have a big time, journalism program.
Yeah, and I one of my colleagues back home, R.A. Kozlow, he chose Arizona over Arizona State. And I think that was largely because his parents were alums and don't realize how much better Cronkite is than the sports journalism school at Arizona. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him hitting me up after he graduates or just end up enrolling at Cronkite for grad school because
Yeah.
most of what he's getting down there in Arizona is opportunities where he showed initiative and got internships and stuff like that rather than what he's learning in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of schools like that in general, I feel like. But just to backtrack real quick, I don't think I ever would have guessed this when I was your, teaching assistant slash, counselor at DWC, back at American University. But
Summer
I,
2016.
I actually got to see your growth like physically, which is not a normal situation for, you know, us with our age gap as well as our school gap. So I have my own perceptions on your growth. Not saying that you haven't grown a lot, but like I can see like specifically like in what areas you're growing, what other areas you got still left to grow, and where you haven't even scratched the surface. But I was new to Arizona. I'm essentially coming to your playground, right? And we
Yeah.
were roommates. How do you feel that us being roommates had anything to do with your growth, if it had anything to do with your growth?
Um, Freshman year, considering I spent most of my time with Juan, who was just as wild as me, I didn't really have somebody to keep me in check. And that's mostly the role you played uh, with my growth my sophomore year. I mean, there were a lot of dumb decisions I probably would have made if you weren't there. And I'm used to the one I'm used to being the one that makes the decisions for the group rather than, the one who plays second fiddle to someone much older. I grew up 3 years older than my younger brother, my only sibling. So I guess I never knew what it felt like to be the little bro.
I think that's true. I mean, for me at least, obviously, when you're living with someone, whether you're friends or not friends, you're not always going to see eye to eye. So I feel like sometimes I was too invested as like already knowing you and us being friends that I feel like I micromanage too much sometimes. So it's not your fault. You're not supposed to listen to everything I say. Even if I was your father, you're not supposed to listen to everything I say. But I wasn't used to like not all my advice being as receptive because I'm used to, I'm not saying I'm the smartest dude, but I'm usually the one that people come to for advice. So I think what I had to grow with or learn is that sometimes you have friends or people that you care about where it's better to sometimes not say anything or let them figure it out and then just be there when they need you in order to, get advice or whether they have a question about something, etc. Like I know it's funny because several things that you do naturally now is like stuff that I may have asked about or was frustrated about when we were roommates. But now I'm like, it feels weird because like you just do it naturally. Like this may sound corny, but it's like something simple. For example, when we were roommates, but we very much had our own like separate lives. Like we hung out at the crib together, but I had school and stuff for grad school. I hung out with the club basketball team a lot, etc. You
Yep.
hung out with like some of your other friends, etc. And like that's just kind of how it was. And like every now and again, we would hang out together with your friends, or I may have invited you to something that I was going to, but that's like how it was. So
Yeah.
fast forward now to the pandemic, etc. It just it took me some time getting used to where you would hit me up first and be like, hey, do you want to do this? Or do you want to do that? And you even did that when you lived at the cottages. You'd be like, oh, do you want to do this? You want to do that? So I guess it was just a weird shift for me. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like he's just picking certain things up like naturally. Not saying that it was that big of a deal, but if you're friends with somebody, it's cool to be included, sometimes, especially
Yeah.
if you are in a, close proximity to other like we are. So I thought that was one of the ways that you grew, as well as like certain stuff like I'm not going to get into detail, but like certain little things that you did, as far as like if someone suggested something or someone asked you to do something, you'd be like, "Nah, I'm good. I don't need to be doing that." So I thought that was beautiful to see on my end from I guess the older like big brother type of role that I have in our relationship.
Yeah. I would say, trying to think the right way to word this. Yeah, I mean, I definitely used to be really bad about hitting up my friends. I kind of just waited on somebody to text me to hang out rather than, inviting someone along or including someone or being like, hey, do you want to do something? And, something I'm still working on to this day. And yeah, that's one of the ways I grew. And I think sophomore year, it was crazy thinking about going from the last time I had seen you was the end of camp in
Yeah,
2016 to now we see each other every day and we're roommates. That was a wild transition.
I didn't think about it like that, but yeah, that does make sense.
So, I mean, obviously we had Skype with the whole squad and everything, but that was the first time I had seen you in person in 2.5 years.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, like 2.5 years. And like
Yeah.
difference from like me telling you my stories about college to now you've already experienced
I'm part
college,
of your stories.
and now yeah, now you're like part of like what I'm experiencing, or like now you obviously you didn't get to see like UK Lamar, like that's
Yeah.
a whole different version of myself, but you got to like see some of the stuff I was talking about or why I had certain perceptions about college the way I had it, etc.
Exactly.
So now, whether it be personal growth wise or just career growth wise, you have any like long term goals currently?
Honestly, the way it's been going with, just sports writing and reporting in general, I think that's probably going to be where I end up landing with a job. And my goal is to get that blue check first on Twitter, and then, Instagram's going to be a lot more difficult. But getting that blue check as a sports journalist is that verification is like validation as a sports journalist, that you've solidified yourself in the sports journalism field. And, when people click on your profile when you're live tweeting a game or talking about any kind of sports topic, they're going to see that blue check and be like, oh, this guy's an expert. This guy knows what he's talking about. This guy does this for a living. So I think that will be a huge step for me, and just slowly moving up the sports journalism ranks. I think I've already um, made some shortcuts to the industry just by people I know. Like I don't know of very many 19-year-olds saying they had interned with the Golf Channel. That was a unique opportunity, and yeah, I just hope to keep climbing the ranks in the sports journalism field.
I mean, that's to be expected. The only way to go is up. Before I get you out of here, I play a game with all of my guests. So today is gonna be simple. I'm gonna just make a statement, whether it be about college or yeah, statement usually statement pretty much related to college or ASU, and it's called "That's Cap." Real talk or that's cap. So I'm gonna make a statement and you just answer with real talk or that's cap, whether you believe it's true or false. All right. So first statement, ASU is wilder than you expected coming into college.
Cat.
Hmm. So you
I
think
expected it to be pretty wild.
hmm, interesting. All right, next one. You would live at the cottages slash Red Point. That's what I think that's what they call it now. Again.
Yeah. Cap.
Hmm. That was too much.
Too much. Absolutely. It was, sorry for cussing, but it was a shit show.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I can attest to that as a guest multiple times. All right. Getting a girlfriend was one of the best decisions you made in college.
Absolutely. I've been a lot more focused since that began, and I was not, you know, running the streets.
Yeah, I think that's very valid. All right. ASU's Cronkite School exceeded your expectations.
Absolutely. I did not think that the professors I've had would be, you know, this highly accomplished in the industry. I don't know where they're getting these teachers from, but
Same.
because
I'm
barely any of
surprised
them are
every time.
alumni. They're not. None of them are alumni, or very few of them are alumni. I don't know how they're doing it. Next thing you know, they're going to have Matt Berry teaching television sports reporting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. All right. Last one. Life after college makes you a little nervous.
Cat.
Hmm. That means ASU prepared you then.
Absolutely. Um, it's not usually that you hear arguably the number one party school is one of the best for job placement. But in the Cronkite School of Journalism, I mean, I'm very confident that I will have a full time offer locked up before April even begins.
That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear. All right. Uh, that's all I have for you all this week on this episode of the Jack of All Trades Pod. Make sure you check out the episode on Anchor, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts at. And also make sure that you check out our podcast, Let's Talk About Sports Podcast. I'll put that information in the bio as always. It's been a pleasure to have you, Brandon. Also, make sure you get my book, put that info in the bio, and follow me at Jack Onovan on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. LA out.